Hello, and welcome to Overlanders Then and Now. I'm Jim King, here with my fellow Overlander, Tom Bingle. Binks, are you ready for this one?
Oh, Jimmy, I don't know, Doc, on this. We'll see what happens today.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we'll be covering a very difficult conversation. Some might call it a confrontation that you and I had as we neared the end of our travels together in Europe.
Oh, Jimmy, I don't think either of us want to revisit it, but it was an important moment, Jimmy. And Doc, maybe there's a lesson here, for others traveling together.
No, we'll see. We really haven't discussed this very much since this happened, what,
Yeah,
nearly
yeah,
50 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, as you say, let's see what happens. But before we do get to that, let's spend a minute or two on our separate arrivals in Spain. I got in that country a
Yeah,
day or two ahead of you, I think,
yeah.
and we had planned to meet in Granada, right?
Right, Jimmy. Yeah,
Yeah,
Granada, Jimmy. It was fun because we had worked out a specific time and place to meet in Granada.
right.
And to get there on time, Jimmy, I had to take a train from Valencia, a train that left at 1 in the morning.
Hmm.
And then, Jimmy, just before I was about ready to get onto the train on the platform, there you were, Doc. There you were. And I was thinking, oh no, Jimmy's already got to be in Granada, but there you were, Doc.
Yeah, I was supposed to be. It was so weird. I was going to take an earlier
Yeah.
train, but then I decided to stay in Valencia, another day and then take the overnight train to meet you. But I was really happy to see you because traveling solo in Spain back then was different than
Yeah. Hmm.
traveling solo in the other countries we had visited. There weren't as many backpackers, so
Yeah.
uh, you know, it was interesting, but it started to get a little bit lonely. You
I
know.
mean, Jim, even with your command of the Spanish language, Jim, you took a lot of Spanish classes in high school and college, didn't you, Doc?
Yeah, I did. And as soon as I got to Spain, it was apparent that I should have paid closer attention in class. Uh,
Jimmy, unbelievable. Well, I was glad to see you too, Doc, because I have to admit, Jim, bit of a high as I was pretty sure, I would land this job in this ski resort town in Germany, Garmisch-Partenkirchen, that would allow me to stay in Europe longer, with housing and with a little money. I was
yeah,
psyched, Jimmy, and I was hoping to talk you into possibly joining me, Doc. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, that conversation didn't go as planned, did it? But let's first talk about where we went before we got
Yeah.
to that conversation. I think it was Granada, right?
Jimmy,
Well, yeah,
yes,
of course it
Granada.
was. Yep.
And Doc, because there wasn't that many backpackers and travel, we lucked out because we had the train compartment on that long run from Valencia to Granada by ourselves.
That
We
was
were able
great.
to sleep and arrive in Granada, Jimmy, somewhat rested,
Yeah, that was
unusual.
nice. Yeah, I remember writing in the journal that we had it to ourselves. That was great. But even so, we decided not to stay in Granada too long since we were eager to head south down to the Costa del
Yeah,
Sol and hopefully some warmer weather. But as we traveled through Spain,
yeah.
looking back, do you remember, any initial impressions?
Jimmy, the one thing I will remember distinctively, they were friendly.
Oh,
They
the
were
Spaniards.
warm,
Yeah,
kind of like the temperature outside. They were just warm people, friendly, and wanted, and especially Jim, I think, with our attempts or your attempts at Spanish, they really warmed up even more. But Jimmy, very friendly, very friendly.
yeah, I agree. Very kind, very patient, as you say,
Mm.
with our uh, attempts anyway at Spanish. Looking back, I think part of the reason that they were so pleasant and willing to help is that, as I mentioned back then, Spain hadn't yet been overrun by backpackers.
Yeah, and Jimmy, a final little note though, they hadn't met too many Americans,
Yeah,
too, Jim. I
that's
just,
true.
so Jimmy, yeah, good point. That wasn't overwhelmed. I felt like we were in this sounds unusual, very un-European country back then, Jim. And I loved it. It was
Yeah,
different.
yeah, me too. I loved it. It was, yeah. So let's talk about that first stop in Granada. Now, since we were there, of course, we had to go
Mhm.
see the Alhambra, right?
Yeah. Yes, Jimmy.
I
Yes.
I hardly have any notes in my journal on that, so I'm going to rely on you. What impressed you most about that Andalusian, am I saying that right? Palace.
Yes, yeah, yes, Jimmy. Unbelievable. We were there in Granada. So unique, Jim. And it was known, for this great moment in human history,
Hmm.
a touch of harmony. in the 13th century, Jimmy, when the Muslims came up from North Africa, overtook Spain, and Moorish, Spain began, or Moorish world. But it was the part where the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jewish people lived in harmony. They living together for the most part, very peacefully. And the
Mhm.
center of this, Jim, was the Palace of the Alhambra, which was perched on top of Granada, overlooking it. And it dominated Granada even till today, but
Mhm.
ever since the 13th century. And it was Jimmy, the architecture. Oh God, Jim, I remember walking in, almost seeing every not room, but every area of the palace had courtyards, and they were abound with pools and fountains, very tranquil. Wonderful flowers and everything, very peaceful. And Jimmy, beautiful carvings and stucco, and it's just wonderful. And I think it was finished around 1492. However, interesting, 1492, there was the reconquest by the Christians to Spain, of Ferdinand and Isabella. And they then kicked out the Muslims and they moved into Alhambra. And that's where they actually, Christopher Columbus, this young man, this explorer, came, and Ferdinand and Isabel gave their blessing for him to head to the Americas, which he did in 1492. Isn't that something?
It is. And now I think our viewers have a taste of what it's like to be trapped in a train compartment with you and your Let's Go Europe guidebook.
Great, Jim.
So,
Oh,
all right, well, let's move on to the next major venue. Uh, we went to
yeah.
Malaga, where we ran into
Hmm.
some very friendly
Yeah.
Canadian backpackers, and they said, "Don't stay here in Malaga. Go find a place in Torremolinos,
Yeah.
where you know the whole scene was much younger and more interesting
Yes.
and right on the beach." So we decided to
Yeah,
go
right.
there. Wasn't far away, and we spent, I think, 2 days there.
Yeah. And Jim, I intended to talk you into going to Germany with me to find work, Jim. That was the intention.
Yeah, we both wanted to have a conversation about what was next. And I had
Yeah.
made a very
Hmm.
different
Yep.
decisions, and I felt just a tremendous sense of relief after weeks of vacillating.
Yeah.
Do I go
Yeah.
home? I wanted to pursue my writing. Could I do it in Europe? I don't have any money. What should I do? Blah, blah, blah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I decided early morning that I was going to go home and pursue my
Yeah,
writing.
that's huge.
And I
Yeah.
was sure you were going to congratulate me and wish me well. Uh, but as we wrote in the blog post, that's not quite what happened.
Oh gosh, Jimmy, not at all. Not at all.
I
Sorry,
won't
Jim.
I won't repeat what was in the blog
Yeah.
entirely, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Yeah.
I was excited to share the news, but man, you really unloaded on me. You can talk about a big ego. I was inflexible, stubborn, no compromise.
Yeah.
And the kicker was that you were kind of hinting that I was going to
Yes,
end up,
yes, yeah,
old, angry.
yeah,
What the
yes,
hell?
Jim.
Like, what was going on, Banks?
Jim. Oh, well, Jim, I did start off talking about your great mind and how you were able to make decisions and how you knew yourself so well and your writing and your
All
intellect.
right, all right. I got
Uh,
to stop you there, Banks. I don't remember any of that. It's not in my journal. All I remember, you just came at me, bam, bam, bam. Yeah, I got to ask, were you mad because I wasn't going to join you in Germany, or?
Jimmy, maybe, yeah. I guess I was. You know why, Doc? Because things had been going so well for these 2 months, as
Yeah,
we
they had.
reflected back. And Jimmy, I kind of hated the idea of a change. And I knew down inside that the great things we'd done for the 2 months, I needed, you had to be there in order to kind of make it come through and everything like that.
Hmm.
So I guess I was being a little selfish, Jimmy, in that regard. But, after too much traveling together, Doc, nonstop. Here we go, Jimmy. You became kind of a fifth brother to me. And
Oh,
I think I got it seems like after these 2 months of together, I got to even know you better than my brothers. And I felt I could say anything, Jimmy, like brothers do. And
uh,
so I just kind of, went for it.
yeah, yeah,
And
you
as you
did.
know, Doc, that's not my usual modus operandi.
Yeah, well, I think that's what
Yeah.
surprised me most because you're
Yes, I can
definitely
imagine.
not confrontational. If anything, you tended to try to please everyone, which seemed to make it difficult for you to
Yeah.
make up your mind about some of the smallest things. And at times that drove me crazy. Just,
I
Yeah.
don't remember, Jimmy, you saying that.
Oh,
I
I
don't
didn't.
remember.
I didn't because I was so surprised at what you were saying that I couldn't think of anything to say. In my journal, I wrote that the only thing I did actually say was something like, I'm surprised you had the guts to say that, which was kind of lame, but I kind of admired that actually.
Surprise, Jimmy, maybe a little bit angry.
Oh, not a
Was there
little,
any truth to what I said?
not a little angry. I was pissed. I
Yeah, you
In
were.
fact, if I recall
Yeah,
correctly, we split for the rest of
yeah,
the day and the night so we could cool down. But during that time, Binks, I actually did reflect on what you
yeah.
said.
Uh-huh.
And while I disagreed with a lot of what you said, like, for example, me being inflexible, I think anyone who travels with you and your craziness has to be flexible. But I
Yeah.
did take some of your comments to heart. Stubbornness, for example. That's always been one of my more salient and often unpleasant qualities. So tried to make some adjustments. But, the next day we talked it out and agreed that,
Yeah.
yes, we're brothers from different mothers, but,
Yeah.
we'll stick it out for the last couple of days of the trip and see what happens.
Yeah.
So, Banks, what lesson, if any, did you draw from that difficult conversation?
Jim, geez, I'm just reflecting, but it turns out that it must have had some, you must have taken a little bit of my advice, Jimmy, because you have a great wife, great kids, great grandkids, and Jimmy, you're not a lonely old man after all,
Well, I'm
Jim.
old. I'm old. Gee, and I guess I owe it all to you, right, Banks?
So what about you, Doc? What advice for travelers and friends on this?
Well, I guess that, when you're traveling, it's important to be honest about how you're feeling.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't have to be brutal about it the way you were, but
Sorry.
it's important for your own comfort and
Yeah.
enjoyment of the trip. And it helps the other person too, to make changes if it's
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
for, to ensure that you both meet your own
Uh-huh.
personal goals for the trip.
Yeah.
In our
Interesting. Yep.
case, as difficult as that conversation was for both of us, I do agree that it strengthened our friendship. Evidence is the fact that we can look back on it now and laugh.
Jimmy. Amen, brother. Amen, Jim.
All right. So I guess, Binks, that's a wrap for this one. In
Okay.
our next blog and video, we're off to Toledo, Spain, not your hometown in
Okay,
Ohio,
that's my home. Yeah.
and then on to Madrid. So everyone watching, thanks for
Yeah,
joining
great.
us. And
Yes.
until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos y amigas.
After 25 of these videos, we still can't get our end
Oh,
together.
Jimmy.